I was going back to Europe in the early 80s to do a mini-series. I was living in America at the time. And I'd received from a fan a couple of scripts, one on the life of Boswell, and one was this slim book saying, if you're ever interested in a character, you might want to read this book. It was a Lovejoy book, Lovejoy novel. I'd never heard of them. I read it on the plane over and was struck by its relevance as a TV show. It had the qualities that I think they still look for now of a comedy drama, which is a great genre that appeals to all ages of a family. And I read it, liked it, and I had lunch with the author, Jonathan Gash, which is a pseudonym. He's a very well-respected, known doctor of tropical medicines. And so we had lunch, and he was fascinated by it, and I knew I wanted to write it. A friend of mine, Ian Lafreniere, and Dick Clement, who I'd known for years, who worked with a producing partner at the time, was also a friend of mine, Alan McEwen. And I sent this to Alan, and Ian sat down and dashed out an outline, the Bible for the show. The book had characters. The only characters that were in the book originally were myself and Tinker. Eric was an invention of Ian's, which I think is great, which is like, you know, the idiot, you can use it any time, but he's really a good guy. He'll do the errands, and he's also, you can teach him things about the business. And Lady Jane, the Lady Jane character, which was an amalgam of certain characters in the books, who is like the posh, bitter stuff, who they really love each other. Will they, won't they? They never do, because once you do it, you've broken that spell between you and the audience. And we were lucky enough to get, you know, three terrific actors, Dudley Sutton, Chris Jury, and the lovely Phyllis Logan, to play those characters. And the other character, which is in the books originally, but we only did 3 series with him because, I don't quite know why now, of Gimbert, who's the man you love to hate, like the on-off villain, the new money guy who only likes antiques because of what he can get out of them. Whereas Lovejoy is in it because he's a divvy and he has this romantic attachment and his heart flutters and he gets excited, and he's not in it for his own gain, he's in it for the love of the chase and the love of the antique area itself. And so we did the first series in 85. And then with Jonathan Powell. And then there was like a hiatus. Contractual problems came in after that. And Alan and I decided to sort of lay back on it for a few years. And then Jonathan Powell was made controller of BBC One and asked us back in 89 and said, listen, that show, I really don't think we explored it fully. Are you both free? And we said yes, and we went back in 89 with the same cast again, 1990, and did further 5 successful seasons, and that's why we're sitting here today talking about it. It was on around the time that Antiques Roadshow had been on for a while. It sort of invigorated that program and gave us a boost. We used to do a sort of a little tie-in now and again with it. But it was also the first ever real independent show done with the BBC, because they didn't own it. When we did it, then we sort of set the template for an independent production, and then they came more and more in the 90s, you know. But it was funny. I mean, God bless them, the one thing, once you do a show, when we did the second, they left you alone. They didn't ever interfere. They let you do what you wanted. They never had any kind of, they didn't overlook you in editing or whatever. I think when we made the first series, I don't think anybody knew what to make of it. I think we were just making a 10-part series in England. And the nice thing about being in England is, you know, there's a lot less, well, there was then, back in the 80s, a lot less celebrity madness than there is now, which is anybody that's, you know, appeared on television, everybody's appeared on television, or everybody should do. Then, so you were just doing a TV show. And it came out, I would think when it came out the following year, I was already back here doing something else. And contractually, we ran into a kind of a snafu, which wasn't resolved for 3 years until we could take up the series again. So series 1 was, in a way, a great unknown dry run. It came out, it did fine. But it wasn't given by the BBC a kind of a big hoopla. I didn't go over there and do a lot of press for it. It came out and was already we were working towards other areas. But it was always at the back of our mind. It was an experience. We'd done it. Actually, it gave me a background in, you know, insert now producing a show. I hadn't directed one then. But when we came back again in 1990, it was the knowledge that, and then the second series showed again. They showed the first series again, then they showed the second series, 91, and of course it took off and we had like, the first series went into like 15, 16 million viewers, whatever. Which was, and I felt, yeah, your faith in the show was well-founded, and we were all very happy by it. And we went on from there, and I don't think we became slack about the show. I think we tried to change the show each year, make the characters funnier. We didn't just rely on the same kind of, churn out the same show all the time, which in some may be one of the weaknesses, because people do like the same thing all the time. We didn't. We tried to move location each year, give him another point of view, mature the characters a little, bring in the character of Gimbert again, Malcolm Tierney's character, but all the time never losing sight of the fact that Lovejoy, as the quote you gave me before from the New York Times book review, was basically broke, was a bit of a conniver, a bit of a liar, but loved women, but loved above all antiques, and they brought out in something else. They did bring, antiques are what brought him to life. Yeah, and I think that's what he couldn't live without, could not live without that. I think we managed to capture that in the character in the show, that was the love of his life. They called me and said, I remember saying, Dudley, they said Dudley Sutton, who I knew. I said he'd be marvelous, Dudley. Chris I didn't know, but I went with the instincts of Alan, and we had a terrific director who did the first shows, which was Baz Taylor. And Phyllis I'd seen in that wonderful film where she played Another Time, not Another Time, Another Place. I think it was about a Scottish housewife who fell in love with an Italian prisoner of war during World War II. She's a marvelous actress. I think she brought an enormous amount to the program. Class and fun, and her quality of being very straight. An audience could identify with it. There was nothing sleazy about her relationship with Lovejoy, although he would have liked to have made it a little more sleazy than it was.